जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, welcome back. This is the last part of how to study Gita. In the previous two sessions, we discussed about understanding the purpose of studying Gita, and then we went through the 3 points that Lord Chaitanya has proposed us. We must understand the Sambandha Gyan, and then after understanding the Sambandha Gyan, then we revive our relationship with Krishna with the process which is given by the scriptures, which is the Abhidheya process, chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And what is the goal? The goal or the result is we develop attraction for performing loving devotional service for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these things we study under the disciplic succession. And the study begins by the process of hearing. And hearing actually purifies our heart. And the consciousness of the living entity gets purified by the process of hearing the Shastra in disciplic succession. And Prabhupada, in some of the purports, he mentions that one must hear with rapt attention, paying full attention to whatever they are studying or receiving the knowledge. And the mind should be undisturbed. And the disturbance of the mind happens if we have some agitations in the mind. So we have to purify our actions so that our mind is not agitated. And then once we hear with rapt attention, then we think about the subject matter what we heard. That is called as manana, and then meditating upon that subject, that is nididhanasya. And then they continue hearing the subjects again. So this thinking, meditating, hearing, this is like a cyclic process. By doing this process again and again, our mind is cleansed, our heart is cleansed. The tendencies to enjoy separately from Krishna gradually get erased, and the desires to perform pure devotional service arise in our heart. And we saw this model which was proposed by Edgar Dale, where he says that you can retain 90% of what we have heard and by just doing it, saying and doing it, repeating it, and applying those principles in life. And then we also heard that we should hear in the mood of submission and receive the knowledge as a service to Guru and Krishna. And when we are hearing, in our mind we should know that this is actually the incarnation of the Lord, and the Lord helps us in purifying. So then we also saw this example. And the third step is to contemplate. The contemplate has 3 ways we can contemplate. One is individual level, or in association of devotees, or hearing the commentaries of the previous acharyas. So we went over this in the last session. And then the knowledge actually gradually turns into realization. So whatever we have heard and then whatever we have contemplated, that becomes part of us. So realization is a 2-step process. One is self-endeavor and other is revelation. Revelation part is in Krishna's hand. But when Krishna sees our intention and our efforts, then he reveals himself. Krishna cannot be known by our own endeavor itself. He has to reveal himself. And then there were 3 ways to acquire knowledge. One is pratyaksha, other is anuman, third is shabda. Shabda being the purest. Pratyaksha is whatever we experience, direct sense perception. And then anuman is the logical inference. And whereas shabda is the revelation from the Vedas or the revelation of the God himself. And then we reconcile the shabda, what we have heard, with the pratyaksha which we are seeing using the anuman. So we went through this in details. And then we also understood that the satisfaction of the self realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. This is the key thing. Okay. So today we are going to discuss the next point, which is after the realization there is a purification. Actually, these things goes on simultaneously. It's not like one step at a time, but there's a gradual purification or transformation of heart, which we considered in the beginning. Like why are we actually studying? So one of the reasons for studying was purification of heart. There's a transformation that happens in the heart. Right? The qualities which the subject matters which we are hearing, gradually they become our realization, and our heart actually gets purified. That is called as transformation of heart. It is not just at the level of information, but the information is helping us to transform our life, transform our consciousness. So the meaning is to comprehend or completely or correctly understand it, and to accept what is real to be real. When our intelligence accepts something, that is at the level of jnana. But when our mind accepts something, that becomes our realization, that is vijnana. So that is how our heart is actually purified. So the purification of the heart is actually done by Paramatma, who is sitting in the heart, or Krishna, who is sitting in our heart as Paramatma. And this is given in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is described as the blazing fire burns everything within the room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of a yogi. Yogi is a person who is actually practicing this process, burns of all kinds of impurities. Prabhupada says in second chapter. So he is using this word. The word matpara is very significant, because this indicates that we do our part, which we learned earlier, that there is a self endeavor. So we do our part, but the actual work of cleansing the impurities in our heart is done by the Lord. So because of he is normally present in heart of everyone, all the living entities, but he becomes active when we show interest. And when he becomes active by his active presence in our heart, by his presence, all the dirt gets erased or burned up. Like when there is a sun, scorching heat of the sun can burn anything which is dirty on the earth. So similarly, the presence of the Lord in our heart, active presence of the Lord in our heart, because of his presence, what happens? In that room, everything is burned to ashes. So similarly, all the kind of impurities are gradually burned from our heart. And then when these impurities are burned, then what happens? All these characteristics like illusion, lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, they start gradually diminishing. And we will see the rise of all good characteristics in the living entities. So this is the indication, gradually all these characteristics will go away, and one becomes peaceful, the mind becomes peaceful and not agitated. And attraction for hearing of Lord's katha, or hearing about the Lord, increase gradually day by day. So this goes down, and the other part, which is attraction for the Lord, goes up. So this is what happens. And this is actually happening as a transformation of heart. Then what happens? The Lord sitting in our heart, our intelligence is redirected from matter towards love for Krishna. So right now our attraction is for the matter, for temporary. But gradually, as Krishna's presence increases in our life, the love for Krishna becomes more prominent in our life, and the attraction for the temporary, which is material, gradually decreases. So this is actually the transformation of heart. So Krishna is, as you see in this picture, Krishna is arising as the morning sun comes up. Krishna gradually becomes prominent in our heart, and then we start seeing things in this world connected to Krishna. So this is the transformation that is happening. So we saw the example of, or we will see actually the example of Arjuna. In chapter 1, we'll see that he was a extrinsic warrior. As a warrior who wanted to fight in the beginning, before the battle began. But as Arjuna saw his relatives on the other side, Arjuna actually requests Krishna to take the chariot to the middle of the battlefield. And when the chariot goes in the middle of the battlefield, and as Arjuna sees his relatives, what happens is his mind is overwhelmed with compassion, seeing his relatives. And instead of this warrior who was very strong before the war, what happened? His heart became very weakened by seeing his relatives, and he says himself that karpanya dosha, now I am confused about my duty, and I have lost all composure because of my miserly weakness. So he couldn't think correctly. By seeing his relatives, by seeing through his eyes, through the pratyaksha, when he saw his relatives, he became confused, and then he forgot about his duties. He forgot about why he came there, and he started crying, literally crying. And the symptoms were manifested externally on his body, And then at that time, he very wisely and very correctly took shelter of Krishna. So he's saying, in this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. This is Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, verse 7. So we can see that, he was confused, and when he was totally bewildered, and in that state, he could not think what is right for him, what is wrong for him, what is good for him, what is not good for him. So then he surrendered to Krishna. And then Krishna spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita. And at the end of that, his heart completely transformed. So instead of becoming an extrinsic warrior, after the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, he became a surrendered warrior. And then he said at the end, towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, he is saying that, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. Means his transformation of heart has happened. The coverings which were there in his mind, before the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, that was all gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. And he is saying, I am now firm and free from doubts, and I am prepared to act according to your instruction. So this is actually a real transformation. He was independent before the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, but then he surrendered his will to the will of the Lord. And surrendering to the will of the Lord is the actual transformation of heart that has happened in case of Arjuna. So we expect to see, if we read this subject matter very carefully, very critically, in details, with sincerity, utmost sincerity, and knowing the purpose. That's why the purpose has to be very clear. So when we study in that mode, then there is a guaranteed that the transformation of heart will happen. And then we are going to surrender to the will of the Lord. So this is what needs to happen after systematically studying Bhagavad Gita. And then what happens? Satisfaction of the heart. that is given to in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Na sochati na kangshati. No lamentation and no hankering. Means the soul is completely satisfied. Satisfied in what? Satisfied in his relationship with Krishna. So you see that, after studying Bhagavad Gita in such a systematic manner, what happened? The ultimate gain is we become satisfied in our relationship with Krishna. So nothing external then disturbs us, right? We continue to work or continue to perform our duties, but our heart is completely internally our heart is completely satisfied in relationship with Krishna. So there is no hankering and no lamentation. So lamentation of whatever we have desire and that is not fulfilled, that is lamentation. There's something else I wanted and I didn't get it. That is how I am lamenting. And hankering means something which I want, and that so these two things continuously disturbs the soul. Either the soul is in the past lamenting that this is what I was supposed to get, I didn't get it, or it is in the future that I want something and my desires are this and it's not getting fulfilled, or I want this or that. So either it is sochati, or the other condition is it is kangshati. So then what happens? The soul who is not either in the past or in the present, he is in the or in the future, he is actually situated in the current. What is the current or the present? The present situation is the thoughts of my pure devotee dwells in me, and their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another by conversing about me. So the soul actually relishes the presence of Krishna in the heart, as well as the soul actually enjoys discussing the pastimes of the Lord. He is interested in hearing the pastimes of the Lord in association of other devotees or other like-minded people who are also interested in the same thing, and they derive great satisfaction in the heart. In fact, they derive bliss from always enlightening one another. So this is given in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Mat cheta madgat prana. Kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. They are completely blissful, enlightening each other, discussing the Krishna Katha. And this stage is the Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, as I said earlier in the 18th chapter. So this is a verse. Na sochati, na kangshati. These are the symptoms of somebody in a Brahma Bhuta state. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. He is transcendentally situated and he is fully joyful. Prasanna Atma. He has become fully joyful. Brahma Bhuta, that is called as a Brahma Bhuta state. So currently we are in the Jiva Bhuta. Basically we are Jivas who are actually our attention is in the matter right now. But eventually, after careful study and going through whatever stages we have described here, one can eventually come to the Brahma Bhuta stage. So this requires active cultivation, active involvement of the person, the soul, every day actually. And one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. Right? He is equally disposed towards every. So this is the result. He is samah sarveshu bhutesu. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. He sees every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna. And then actually the pure bhakti begins. So what we are doing bhakti right now, it is practicing bhakti. So we can call ourselves as aspiring devotees. Means we are practicing devotees. We cannot call ourselves as pure bhakta. We should not assume that. So once our state of mind or state of consciousness is at Brahma Bhuta platform, then from there onwards, whatever service which we perform, that is actually bhakti. So that is pure bhakti, pure devotional service. So right now it is mixed devotional service, and that is the goal. So we cultivate towards pure devotional service. And how do we know? So in Bhagavatam 11th canto 4th chapter 42nd verse, um, the symptoms are given. So direct, I'll just read the English translation. That what happens when somebody is engaged in pure devotional service, So devotion or direct experience of the Supreme Lord and detachment from other things. These three occurs. So devotion means bhakti. Direct experience of the Supreme Lord means you can experience the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things, which is detachment from matter. These three occurs simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord. So we study all this subject matter to cultivate Sambandha Gyan. Right? Initially, the purpose of the study is Sambandha Gyan. But then we do the process of bhakti to regain our relationship. So that is bhakti process. So when we engage bhakti in the process of bhakti, then we can actually feel the presence of the Lord, and also we can feel that our detachment for the matter is gradually happening. These are the three things that happens when we engage in service. And then the example is given that in the same way that pleasure, the nourishment and the relief from hunger comes simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. So just like when we are eating, we get three things. One is we become happy. So if we are very hungry, then when we eat, we become very happy. And then before eating, we are malnourished, so we feel a little weak. So then we are getting nourishment while eating. Each bite we are taking, we get more and more nourishment. And third thing that happens is we are getting relief from the hunger. So when we are eating, these three things happens. Nobody has to tell us. We experience that ourselves, and nobody else can experience for us. Right? So similarly, in the bhakti, these three things, that is devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things, they all occur simultaneously. One who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. So this is about this verse. And the last step, now once we have acquired all this, then we need to actually teach it to others. And teach it to others according to that Edgar Dale model, right? The model which we saw earlier. In this model, it says that you retain maximum when you actually do it. You say it and you do it, right? What you do and what you say, when you perform these acts, so whatever you have learned, then when we teach to others, actually by doing that, we learn more. So the best way to learn is to teach, actually, because when you are teaching others, then actually what happens is you have to study more, and then you have to also act, because you are saying those things. So at least you have to try to act. That's why whatever we learn, we teach it to others. This is our duty. Just don't keep the message with ourselves. We share with others. And when we share with others, then we'll also experience the presence of Krishna, because Krishna is sitting in our heart, and Krishna actually is very happy that we are giving this message to others, and we are trying to help others and actually help the soul getting disentangled from this material existence. So that's why that is actually Krishna's mission. So we are now becoming part of Krishna's team. So Krishna becomes very happy with us. Right? So that's why we share our realization with others. So sharing with others not only means that we teach others, but we share this with others with our own behavior, with our exchange of words, thoughts, in writings, and then this is the best way to share with others. And when people see that we have changed for good, then they would also like to have that. So our behavior is the most important thing. When we interact with other people, you have to be very careful. We have to be very careful in seeing the person connected with Krishna. We cannot directly see that, oh, this is one person, disconnected from Krishna. Always see other people in connection with the Lord, because they are also part and parcel of the Lord. And it becomes our responsibility when we learn, then we pass the same message to them. But we have to be very careful. Like a doctor, when you go to a doctor when somebody is sick, then what does the doctor do actually? The doctor listens 90% of the time. Meaning, we have to diagnose the problem before the prescription. So we cannot overdose the people. We have to give the based on the need of that person, we have to give the dosage. So similarly, when we are actually teaching others, we have to give accordingly to whatever capacity the other person on the other side can receive it. And Srila Prabhupada actually says that the book are our basis, purity is the force, utility is the principle. When you utilize things, that's a principle in service of Krishna. Purity means why we become pure, and by our purity, the message will be received very nicely by the others. And on the what basis we give the knowledge? On the basis of books. Whatever we have studied, we just act as a postman. Our role is to actually connect people to Krishna, nothing more than that. The rest is between that person and Krishna. So our role is to only connect the person to Krishna. And how we do? Through the preaching, which is preaching is the essence. So Prabhupada says preaching is the essence of our philosophy. And Lord Chaitanya has actually requested that Bharat Mumite Manushya Hoila Manushya Janma Jar Janma Sarthak Kari Kara Paropakar. So one who has taken birth as a human being in the land of India. So this is the responsibility of somebody who has taken birth in India. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 9th chapter, 41st verse. So if we have if we are lucky to take a birth in India as a human being, then it is one of the greatest fortune, right? There are certain verses where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that E Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev. In this Brahmanda, if there is a person who is very Bhagyavan, by Guru and Krishna's mercy, Bhagyavan Jeev, then he says Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bej. So by Guru and Krishna's mercy, that person gets the seed of Bhakti. So we are so fortunate to get that seed of Bhakti. And then now it becomes, after getting that seed, now our responsibility is to cultivate that seed. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that one should make his life successful. So cultivating this bhakti in our life is our first business. And first we have to make our life successful. Right? Like when we go into the flight, and if there is some issues, they say that when the oxygen mask comes, first you wear it, and then you help others to wear it. If we are not okay, we will not be able to help others. So first we have to make our life successful by practicing this. So that's why Mahaprabhu is saying, one who has taken birth in India as a human, taken birth as a human being in the land of India, first we should make his life successful, and then what? and work for the benefit of all other people. Then you come out and actually help other in whatever way it is possible. So this is our responsibility, to help others. And one way to help is by the process of teaching. Hmm. And when we teach, what happens? Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, you becoming dearer to Krishna. Krishna is saying, for one who explains 18th chapter 66 to 68th verse, for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So see, the Krishna is giving this guarantee. Right? When we give pure devotional service to others, Krishna becomes very, very happy. And we also get pure devotional service when we help others with this secret. And then at the end of the life, we can go back to Godhead. And then Krishna says again in 1869, there is no servant in this world more dearer to me than he, nor will there be ever one more dear. So that person who actually teaches become the most dear to Krishna. For that, what else we want? We want to become most dear to Krishna. Right? So this is the result of giving this message to others. But we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. We don't have any other intention rather than delivering just this message of Krishna. Our intention has to be very pure. So that's why we deliver the message as it is. Personal realizations, Prabhupada is writing in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, first canto, fourth chapter, first verse purport. He is saying, personal realization does not mean that one should be out of vanity attempt to show one's own learning. We should not try to show others that, I am very learned. By trying to surpass the previous acharyas. And this is, we should never do it. We should never think that I am more intelligent, more smarter than predecessor acharyas or my guru. This is the worst crime, especially for the preachers. So I'll read again. Personal realization does not mean one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous acharyas. He must have full confidence in the previous acharyas, and at the same time he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for particular circumstances in suitable manner. Yes. So we can present this message, in different ways, so that it is easily understandable by the people. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. We should not change the meaning. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it. Yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called as realization. So this is our attempt to present it as it is, without changing anything. But I'm sure, because of our limitations, because of my limitation, will make many mistakes. So please forgive my mistakes, but take the essence, and that's why we put the message along with the purports, and try to deliver the message as it is. Okay. So with this, we have completed the study of basically with the discussion of how to study Bhagavad Gita. And I just wanted to point out one thing, that when in the beginning of when I joined the movement, I met Sri Prahlad. Some of you know him, some of you might not know him. Sri Prahlad was actually accompanying Indradumna Swami. He used to come to Seattle, and we used to have nice kirtans in Seattle area. So after a couple of years of his coming to Seattle, during one of his visit, he gave me, after the Sankirtan was over, I was actually accompanying him in Mridanga, and we had like couple of hours of Sankirtan, and he gave me this book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This was in 2003 because of the date which he has written, and I was not initiated. That's my non-initiated name is there. So he wrote that, try to understand what is Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan Tattvas. So on the other day when I opened this book, I saw this. And I remember, very specifically that he wrote this and then I read it. And he also told me that, may this subject matter of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana Tattvas permeate your consciousness. At that time, I didn't understand anything, what this Sambandha, Abhideya, or Prayojana meant. But today, some by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and the devotees helping us to understand this subject, have some knowledge. But just wanted to remember Prahlad Prabhu. He was a person who, prayed for me so that I could understand the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So similarly, I pray for all of you, including myself, so we can deeply study and understand this message of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and try to understand what he is actually teaching through this Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana Tattvas. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.